So Sofia University is dedicated to providing an education towards leadership that is whole person, whole systems in an applied, pragmatic way. And we are doing these leadership fireside chats to really engage with distinguished leadership personalities from our communities and learn from them and build around the world, really, because this, on the one hand, is here, and on the other hand, will also be shared with our international campuses and our Asian campuses specifically, who were very interested in the topic. So I met John at the headquarters for the OC Hispanic Chamber of Commerce podcast.
That's right. That's right.
And we started having this conversation because he leads the podcasts there and he does a tremendous, amazing job.
2 years. We've had almost 200 guests. We have a guest every week, every Wednesday. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My pleasure. An incredible organization, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, really it's very vibrant, a lot of members, and we also are engaged there. So if any of you guys are ever interested in all the things that they do here in this area and for Palo Alto, I think that you have probably a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce there, right?
Yeah, so the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is a national company, organization, nonprofit, national organization. We deal with a lot of companies that are part of our chamber. We are specifically in Orange County. I'm the vice president for the Orange County chapter. But from a national standpoint, we advocate for businesses. So if any of you ever were going to start a business, no, you do not have to be Hispanic to be part of our Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. That's not what it means. It just means that we really focused on the Hispanic community, the Hispanic buying power. So if you're trying to tap into that community, we help lead you into that community, right? So we have thousands and thousands of Hispanic business owners that are part of us. I think last we checked, there's about 30,000 Hispanic-owned businesses in Orange County. 30,000 entrepreneurs, and I happen to be one of them. I own a healthcare hospice company, which we'll get into, right? My wife, my sister, they're my business partners. We have it for 15 years. We'll go a little bit into what it is, what we do. Obviously, we take care of people that are unfortunately have only 6 months or less to live. A lot of them are battling Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, ALS, Parkinson's. We've been in the healthcare industry for 25 years. Our OC Hospice company has. Been around for 15 years, and we're here in Tustin on Newport right there. And yeah, I'm a business owner. That's how I went into the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I was a business owner, and I got involved with the organization as just a member, and never thought I'd be here 15 years later as the senior vice president of the organization. I'm very honored to be in that position. And eventually, coming out of the pandemic, we started the podcast show that you were on. And the reason why we started it was because we saw a lot of our businesses coming out of the pandemic. We're going through a lot of the same challenges that I was going through as a business owner. So they felt that my role, my position would play a vital role in us figuring out what small businesses were going through, and obviously what I was going through with my business. I think you and I talked about this, if you don't mind me.
No. I mean, no, it was like what I wanted to say. I think what has also struck me as very special about you was the fact that, you know, we were talking about psychology and transpersonal psychology, what Sofia University is also known for. And then you were curious about that. And then you said, and I also do work with cancer patients. So I've been accompanying cancer patients for the last 12 years, and also metastatic group. And so I'm very involved in that. I'm very interested. And then he's like, no way, really? Is that, so I didn't know that you were that strong in psychology. And then we started talking. He goes, and by the way, I have a hospice business. And I know how difficult that is.
Yeah.
So first of all, it's a really difficult topic. It's a difficult place to be. And then, you know, to have the heart to engage with it like this. And, I have to say also what struck me was like how humble you were about it. I was like, wow, this is a major thing. And, why don't we talk about it some more? And what's ironic is that we actually haven't gotten to talking about it. And this is the first time that we get to talk about it.
Yes,
And
live for you, the audience, and live for those viewing us.
Yes.
Hello from Palo Alto.
Yeah. So
thank you for tuning in.
And this works right with all of the things that we've been discussing, which is how do you manage transformative leadership, or how do you manage whole person, whole systems leadership in contexts that are very, very difficult, right? And so I'm just going to leave the floor to you on that, and then I'm going to start asking you some questions in between. But really, like, how did you get there? Like, why hospice?
I went to school to be a teacher. That was my passion. That's what I wanted to do growing up. I always wanted to be a third grade teacher. Never thought I would end up in the healthcare industry, working in hospice. My sister worked for a doctor, and her and I went out and had lunch with his wife, who has master's in social work from USC, real smart lady, and had her own healthcare company. My sister was working for both the doctor and his wife for many years. And we went to have lunch, and this person says to me, "You should come work for us." And I'm like, I'm working as an instructional aide at this high school, at this elementary school in Anaheim. And I said, "I work with kids. Why would you want me to come work in healthcare?" He says, "John, you're just really good with people. I can tell by your personality, and you would be great in healthcare." Mind you, I'm not going to school to be a doctor, a nurse, right? None of this. And so I said, where would there be a place for me in healthcare? I'm not a doctor, a nurse. And they said, well, there's people like you we need in the industry to go out there and educate the community, right? Which is kind of marketing, right? Business development. You have to, what we're doing right now, we're educating the community, right? What is hospice, right? What do we do in the industry? How does it work? Our healthcare system is evolving every day, every year. It's changing, right? From a political standpoint to local communities. And so when she kind of shared that with me, it struck a nerve. I said, wow, I have the option to still impact and help the community as a teacher does. But here I'm working in the healthcare industry. And I said, I'll think about it. And a couple months went by. I kind of had forgotten about it. And my sister said to me, hey, my boss keeps asking me about you. Are you interested in coming to work for us? And I said, I didn't think she was serious about it. And she goes, no, you should meet with her again. And so I went to meet with her again, and she, like the old saying says, she made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And I said, you know what? I'll go work in the healthcare industry because I had some college loans. I was actually about your guys' age. I had some college loans that I wanted to pay back. So I said, I'm going to make a little bit better money over here than working in the teaching industry. So I said, I'm gonna go into this, pay some college loans, and I'll go back and teach one day, which will explain the full circle of why and what I'm doing today. And then we went back to the teaching industry, right? Which, to be honest, I'm honored to be standing
That's
in a
great.
classroom today with, with a doctor like yourself as a professor, because this was my dream, to be a teacher, right? Just kind of weird, right? Right? This was my dream.
I'm taking a picture.
So I went into healthcare because of my sister with her boss, and it was like going to college all over again. And I think what I'm going to share with everybody viewing or listening is, never be afraid to learn, right? Never be afraid to pivot. And the reason why I mentioned the word pivot is because coming out of the pandemic, as a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce vice president, that was the number one word I heard the most coming out of the pandemic. How do we pivot? Because our business is struggling. We're going through all these challenges, right? So the word pivot became very popular coming out of the pandemic. And so that really happened in my career at a young age, around your guys' age, when I was trying to figure out my career and my job. And so I said, I'm going to pivot and look into healthcare and see if this works. And I looked at it like I was going to school all over again. I learned from this lady, her name is Shirley Yu. Her husband is Dr. Yu, great doctor, great doctor, infectious disease doctor in Santa Ana, who was actually my father's doctor, my mother's doctor. He's a family doctor for our family, great doctor. I have a lot of love and respect for him. And I basically said, I'm gonna learn from this lady who has this master's in social work, very smart businesswoman. And I stayed with the company for 7, 8 years, and we opened assisted living communities. We bought at one point, we bought a medical supply company. So I learned everything about medical supplies that are needed in the healthcare industry, right? I learned everything from the pharmacy industry. I learned about contracting in healthcare. People like the Department of Defense. I was sitting in front of, I don't know, a couple hundred people in the Department of Defense in San Diego at a young age, presenting with her, which was very intimidating. But it was easy for me as a wanting to be a teacher. It was easy for me to present, right? But I allowed myself to learn. I allowed myself to say, okay, I'm going to try this and see how it goes. And it was a little bit scary and a little bit challenging. And I'm not going to lie, we talk about this a lot in the world. There's haters in the world. And I would walk into rooms as a young 24-year-old, and there would be older men who wanted to be in my position for her and her company. And I would hear the whispers, of like, why do you have this young kid with you? Like he's a young kid. Like, why would you not hire me to help you? And it went to show that she saw something in me that I probably didn't see in me. Does that make sense? Sorry. I get emotional because she believed in me.
Yeah.
She saw something in me that I didn't see in me. And she gave me a chance. And I learned from her. But you have to be willing to pivot. You have to be willing to want to learn and believe in leaders like this person here, or leaders like back here, these doctors, right, that are sitting with us in this room, these leaders that are back here. You have to, at a young age, you have to be willing to trust. That was something my father taught me at a young age. He taught me to always listen to the elderly. We're going to talk about culture. That's one thing that in the Hispanic community, that's part of our culture. Always respect and honor the elderly, right? Yeah. That's so important. Listening to the people, and I'm going through this right now with my boys, with my sons. It's, I'm a father of 2 boys. And it's not easy being a parent, because sometimes your kids don't want to listen to you. They'll listen to everybody else, but they won't listen to you, right? That's the reality. And what I'm trying to tell you is listen to your parents. They may be older, but they're also wiser. They've been there. They've done that. And I'm so glad that I listened to this lady, Shirley Yu, who said something to me that I didn't know. She said, no, John, you have a gift. And your gift is you're really good with people. You need to come work in healthcare. You're going to make an impact in the world in healthcare. Remember, I'm not going to school to be a doctor or nurse. I didn't know what I would do in healthcare. And I never thought that I would end up one day opening my own healthcare company, my own hospice company, OC Hospice. And if I tell you what we see every day, you and I talked about this, the psychology behind dying. You could be the most wealthiest person in the world. You could be Elon Musk. You could be all these rich, powerful people. I've met with people that are super rich, super wealthy. Trust me. There's a gentleman that was my client who invented the camera that was the first camera they took to space. And I can't say his name because of healthcare HIPAA compliance. But I never forget at a young age when I was working in hospice and I came into his house, beautiful house, like in the beach area, had all these people working for him. And he says to me, John, I want you to be straight with me. Nobody's being straight with me. And he says, why can I not eat steak no more? They're telling me I'm not allowed to eat steak no more. And I said, Mr. So-and-so, again, I'm here to explain to you what is hospice and the hospice program, which is what we do in hospice. Explain to families when you're sick and you're dying, you have to go on this program because we're going to help you. I said, but I've been doing this for some years now, and I can tell you that the doctors are now allowing you to eat steak no more because your body is shutting down. You are in the process of what we call the dying process. There's books about this. There's research about this. When you've hit stage 4 cancer, And it could be pancreatic cancer. It could be colon cancer, right? When you're at stage 4 and this cancer has spread and your body starts shutting down and it starts dying, first thing that's going to go is your swallowing, right? So doctors and speech therapists and the professionals will say, you can't eat these foods no more because you can choke on it, because your throat can no longer, you can no longer chew and eat these things. And here's a man who was super smart, invented this camera to go to space, super powerful, super rich. And here's this little Mexican kid from Santa Ana telling him, you're going to die. You're dying. And it's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. And maybe the doctors haven't told you that, but I'm here to tell you that we're going to do our best to help you through this difficult time. That's what we do in hospice. That's what we do. It's my job to put together the best team of doctors, nurses, home health aides, you name it. It's a whole team that we have. And now we're going to help this man, who is a brilliant man, a brilliant leader in our community, right? He invented this camera to go to like in space. And here's this little kid from Santa Ana telling him, I'm going to go bring the best team that I can. And we're going to help you, Mr. So-and-so, as you live your last days, your last hours. And our job is to make sure he doesn't suffer, that he's not in any pain, and that we always keep his dignity, his respect. So my staff comes in and makes sure that when he no longer can walk from here to that door, which by the way, when you're dying, here to that door, it's like running a marathon. Why? Because you've lost so much weight from not being able to eat, okay? That your oxygen levels have changed in your brain so much that you to that door is like running a marathon. That's why we have to install an oxygen machine at your house. They don't do this at the hospital because hospitals are not meant for you to die. Hospitals are meant for you to go and get fixed and go home. So when you are at those last months to a year, they refer you to companies like ours, which is called hospice. And it's a tough conversation to have, but guess what? We're all going to be there one day. There's no way around it. One day we're all going to be there. And some of us sooner than later, because unfortunately, cancer is running wild. There's a reason why you see all these cancer centers everywhere. Right? And it's very deep. I'm sorry.
No, I mean.
But you wanted me to be real.
No, I wanted you to be real. And I think this is like, it's a really important conversation because we always talk about, having this type of leadership that is inspired, purpose, really leaning into things that matter. And all of you really, choose your projects. And like, we've had these conversations around all of these things. Like everybody wants to make this, like a worthwhile impact. And so this one is probably one of the most difficult ones. And so to stay with that and still make an impact or beyond it, open up the conversation and say, this is beautiful. So in my work, accompanying cancer patients and the metastatic groups, I have some ladies who live like 10 years after their, metastatic diagnosis. And so I've also developed a thing that how can you keep somebody alive the longest is by giving them purpose, curiosity,
yes,
having them learn.
Yes.
And when you meet those criteria, you can stretch that.
Can I put something out on that, on the purpose?
Absolutely.
So in hospice, there's a study that patients that are at the last days of their days before they die, they will fight to live through the holidays. And then right after the holidays, we have a lot of people die. And the reason being is because they can't wait to see their loved ones, their family. So they will fight through purpose, to your point.
Yes.
And then we see a lot of people die after the holidays. So
I mean, that's the reverse side of it, right? So there is a magic in that. And there's magic in providing or seeing, we all work with you. It's like, what is your purpose? What keeps you alive? What makes you tick? What is your passion? And so a part of that is really important that you engage in that, because it gives you, the power and the ability to move things more successfully in the world, right? And so in this case, it's sort of the last concert. I mean, there's such a beauty and importance to it, because also people realize, like, oh, this is why I'm really alive. This is really what I want to do. Oh, like, I am going to really engage with this because it gives me so much meaning. And maybe they didn't before. And then lo and behold, like some doctors have told some of my ladies, my patients, oh, you have like 6 months to live. And then they like turn around and go like, no way, I'm not going to listen to these people. But they turn around and then they live another 3 years, right? But at some point in time, people know. And they also know, like, okay, this is, I can just feel this is it. And on your side, having to tell people, that's a difficulty, but there's something sacred, I want to reiterate, in what you do. So, yeah. So
on that purpose point, a friend of mine reached out to me last week and said, hey, did you hear that so-and-so passed away? And I said, no, I didn't know she passed away. And she was our age, my age. And she was at one of my events 2 years ago. And I knew she had been battling, cancer. And I said, wow. And it was really hard for me to deal with her death, because she had just been at our event like less than 2 years ago, and she was there having a good time. And I have all these videos of her with my friends, and she's somebody in the community we know. But she said something interesting. The person that was delivering the message to me, she said, John, just so you know, when she first found out about her cancer diagnosis, they only had given her a couple months to live, and she lived almost 2 years, to your point of purpose. She goes, and I just want you to know that she was very happy that she was able to give her daughter this really nice quinceañera birthday party. And it was a beautiful party for her daughter turning, in the Mexican community, a quinceañera is a big thing. It's like a big, kind of like the bar mitzvah for the Jewish community, right? And then after that, she passed away, right? And so you could tell that she wanted to, for the purpose of being there for her daughter for this big event, she fought through. But her friend was also telling me she suffered a lot through 6 or 7 surgeries. And it was very difficult for her. The cancer was very aggressive. And so purpose, to your point, will definitely drive us. If you find your purpose, for me, I found that the person that was my mentor gave me that purpose, that at a young age, I didn't know what I really wanted to do. And then eventually I realized I want to help people. I want to make a difference. And to your point, my purpose has been in different places. It's been in healthcare. I love, we actually have a foundation, which is who's viewing us right now, our Life and Hope Foundation viewers. John Life Hope, which is my foundation, which is our cancer foundation. So a lot of my followers, my viewers know that for the last 10, 15 years, we do toy drives. We donate toys to kids. That goes back to the purpose that I had at a young age, wanting to be a teacher. So I'm still doing the things I love.
Interesting, isn't it?
But in different communities. As the vice president of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, I'm helping businesses. So I'm still making a difference like I wanted to do as a teacher, but just in different ways, in different titles, in different positions. But I'm fulfilling that purpose that I once wanted as a young person.
So just for all these, executives and entrepreneurs that we have here in our community, and also, for the ones abroad, what would you recommend? I mean, it's like, you notice like you're pivoting, right? So how do you know that it's the right pivot? Because we talk about that as well, right? Like, how do you pivot? Like, what would you recommend?
So I'll give you an example. When I started the company, I didn't even know I wanted to start my own company. I was just somebody working at a company. For 15 years, I worked for different companies. And one day a doctor said to me, why don't you start your own company, John? I said, really? He says, John, you've helped so many of us, do so much in the community with our own businesses. I think you should start your own hospice company, your own healthcare company. I never saw myself as an entrepreneur. I never saw myself as somebody owning a business, never. So I went home and I tell my wife, hey, we should start our own hospice company, right? And my wife says, are you crazy? She literally looked at me like, she's like, you know how hard that is? We have to get all these licenses. It takes this much through the government and surveys and licensing. It could cost us close to $1 million. And I said, okay, I'm gonna find some of my old mentors and I'm gonna go meet with them and I'm gonna get some, I did research like we do, right? You research. And I wanted to know if this was something I really wanted to do. And I started talking to some of my old mentors. Again, the wiser ones, like my dad taught me at a young age, go talk to the older, the wiser ones. It's kind of part of our culture as Hispanics, right? You go talk to the older, wiser ones. And somewhere along the way, they shared with me, you can do it. You should do it. You've been in this industry 15 years already. You've helped build all these other businesses, these big corporations that you work for. Why can't you build your own little business? And it's very scary because I had to raise almost $1 million to start my company. It took me almost 2 years. I met with hundreds of people. I pitched them our idea. I pitched them our business plan. And so many said no to me. No, 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 maybe. I was like, I need 800,000. I need 900,000. I need $1 million. I need a billion. It was very difficult.
Oh, it's hard.
And trust me, I was at this point where I was like, I remember telling my wife one night, I said, I'm tired. I'm tired of meeting with people. I'm tired of hearing the no's. I'm tired of people going, yes, I may have the money for you. Let me think about it. And then you hear the no's, right? And it just really brings you down. It's like a punch in the gut. It took me almost 2 years to find 2 investors. And I never forget when one of the first investors wrote me a check for 300,000. And that helped us open our doors and start the process. It's not easy to get somebody to give you $300,000 and believe in you and believe in your mission, your story, that you want to start this company called OC Hospice. And our slogan is because we care. And I created the whole logo and it's a tree, the tree of life in our logo.
Oh, nice.
Here's our logo. In the tree of life. I know you guys can't see it. Why is there a tree of life? Because my dad was a landscape worker and my dad would take me to plant trees. And as a young kid, they used to call my dad the green thumb. He had the green thumb because he would plant a tree or plant anything and it would grow. I would plant something and it wouldn't grow. But my dad had the green thumb. So just like life, we wanted the logo, right? So creating your logo, creating your slogan, right? Because we care, creating the brochure, right? I had to create all this from scratch, right? Sorry. Were you okay?
Yeah.
All the marketing stuff I had to create, right? From scratch, right? So as this was created is when I started believing in this could really happen. I've got an investment, I've got a name, we opened a corporation, and we started with 3 employees and we opened the office in Tustin, right? And I quit my job, obviously, to do this. And before you know it, in a matter of 7 years, I had 100 employees in 7 years. I had 20 doctors working for me. I had 30, 40 nurses, I had this whole team. But guess what? The pandemic happens. And it literally crushes my business. It literally shuts our doors. We almost filed for bankruptcy. Literally. And that was hard. Coming out of the pandemic, we had to pivot. We had to rebuild, right? And that's where we're at right now as a business. My business is down to, I have maybe 23 employees. Before the pandemic, we were bringing in almost $6 million a year. We were servicing, a couple hundred people a year. After the pandemic, I'm speaking to you from a business standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And imagine that we take care of people that are sick and dying. Like we shouldn't even have to be worried about these things. We're blessing people, we're helping people, we're making an impact. But at the end of the day, we still got to pay the electricity bill. This doors over here, you gotta unlock them. Somebody's gotta pay for the rent, or you gotta buy the building, right? It's a business. So right now, my business is in a pivoting, rebuilding mode. And now it's like starting all over from literally 15 years ago. I no longer have to create a logo and a name. I have all this done. We have credibility. We have great reviews. But now I'm looking for a new investor. In fact, I have a meeting with them on Monday. I was interested in bringing in some capital to rebuild the company. So my point to the story to you listening, entrepreneurs, is that you're going to have your highs and you're going to have your lows, right? And it's tough. You know how many people haven't told me to shut it down? Shut it down. Close it. Be done with it. It's too much stress on you and your wife. It's too much stress on your family. You're going to hear that when you have your own businesses, if you're already going through that. A lot of people are going to tell you, shut it down. And you're going to be swimming with the water right here, like the movie Titanic, right? Right? That it's like, how do we not drown? It's difficult, but you hope that you make it through.
I mean, so there is two types of pivot, that we can see in there. And one is your personal pivot when you're engaged in something and opportunity comes up. And another one is environmental. And so what's happening at the moment in the general environment is so, there's so much uncertainty. There's so many things that are not clear. There's so much change that it's almost like everybody's going to have to pivot. And maybe some of the businesses don't even know it yet, but have to. And so the question is, maybe you're pivoting just at the right time, or you're ahead of the curve because you realize you need to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe other businesses aren't there yet. And I'm really speaking also worldwide, right? So it's not something that is like, we like to speak about global, right? At Sofia. It's like, yes, here, OC, Palo Alto, but then also wherever else, globally, what is going on? And there's so much change all the time, whether it is technological or whether it's geopolitical, there's so many shifts.
Yes.
So also from that environmental pivoting perspective that you're leaning into, what would you recommend, even maybe also for employees, who are working up the ladder in a big company? So like how to be with that? So much uncertainty.
It's interesting you asked that question. Technology, as you all know, I mean, everybody's on their laptops here. I'm on my phone live, right? She's on her phone live over there. We got technology everywhere, right? We got people viewing us over here. Technology's everywhere. We know that technology is not going to change, right? It's evolving. It's moving, right? I remember, I think it was like 5 years ago or something. I was at an event and the governor was speaking there. Governor Newsom was speaking at this event, and they only had room for one question. And I actually was lucky enough to get that one question. They gave me the microphone. And I said to him in front of all these leaders, how are you going to combat the senior population boom in healthcare with technology? How are you going to combat that? Because the senior population is growing at a fast rate, right? But technology is also at a fast pace. How will seniors be able to survive all this technology? Are we going to lose them? Are we going to lose our senior population in technology, right? And I never forget, he said a nice political answer, but he basically said, we don't have the answer yet, right? We'll see how it goes. And it's interesting because since then, I've seen my mother, who I take care of at my house with my wife and kids, how she's changed after my father passed away and we've been taking care of her. I've seen how much my mother is on her phone, just like we are, and how my mother loves talking to family members in Mexico on her phone on Facebook, right? And I've been observing my mother, how the technology, here's a senior citizen who's almost 80 years old on her Facebook. I have to tell her, Mom, you got to take a break. Like, take it easy, right? And it's funny, it is. I'm like, but she loves the technology's connecting to my mom, connecting my mother to her home state of Mexico. And she sees the food, the culture, the celebrations, the parties. She talks to her family members. It's connected my mother with my family members in Mexico. So technology is helping in a great way, right? And probably the person in view right now, my friend Vanessa, she's big in technology. She owned her own nursing company. To your question, she's bringing technology to help train staff that works for us and at hospitals, right? So we're using technology in a great way, right? Of being able to do more education, more HR, right? How do we train our staff? How do we staff people faster at these hospitals? Or how do we get a nurse out faster to go see a family? So the technology is also helping us in healthcare a lot. But obviously the double sword to that is, how do we not allow technology to now keep us so distant from each other, right? That now my mother no longer wants to go visit, doesn't need to go visit my uncle in Mexico because she sees him all the time. But then suddenly my uncle dies, and then my mom feels guilty. That happened to her recently. One of her cousins died, and she felt really guilty. I saw her crying in my kitchen, and I said, "Mom, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" And she goes, "My cousin died, and I felt bad that I didn't go visit her before she died." Well, then how did you keep? I always talked to her on the phone, but she had been sick, and I didn't know she was going to die this fast. And so sometimes technology can keep us from each other, the human touch, right? Actually touching somebody and going and giving somebody a hug, because we're seeing each other, we're talking to each other, and that's where technology can also, it can hurt us, right? So technology can be great, but also are we no longer, seeing somebody and having a nice coffee and shaking somebody's hand and giving somebody a hug. We need that as humans, and we're losing that. Technology's taking that away from us, right? And so again, back to the question that I asked the governor, right? How are we gonna, senior population and the technology, how do we combat that? And guess what? You young folks are the future of that, right? Because when I'm gonna be 50 this year coming up. When I'm 60, 70, 80, these are things I'm talking to my son about. You are now gonna hopefully help take care of me, right, son? Right? You're not gonna forget about me, right? When I'm old and I can't walk, right? So how do we make sure we don't lose that, right? That
Yeah,
human touch.
Well, that's something that we actually always are discussing, right? The humanity of it all, to like come back to it and to integrate it in the necessary pivots. Because if you lose that, it's not just from the purpose, from the big heart, and yes, leading with compassion, but also from a purely practical perspective, things start getting out of hand. And, there is a sensation, I think, for a lot of people then to be on their stationary bicycles going nowhere. And that is not healthy for anybody. And so the individual nervous system will reflect that. And that's something else. I mean, talking about pivots and business opportunities and so on, that certainly is another one, right? That maybe we had some people also from Palo Alto talk about something like that this morning. But so there is, I think you're really addressing some of these things. I almost want to take a pause and see if there's any questions from anybody.
Question back? Oh,
Yeah, there's lots of
wow,
questions.
this is good.
Okay, you go. You pay.
Go ahead.
So I was thinking, like, when you did the pivot, like, so there is a huge factor that you need to trust that journey, right? And there's so many uncertainties. I think when Professor Lucci was asking that, it's also like related to my place and my project right now. There is there's a cause and such a like purposeful living, but at the same time there is different backgrounds and professional experience. So just like in human level and like just your experiences, because we never know what to come and what to expect, right? So you trusted the process, and thank God it worked. Like when we just do that pivot, in order us to like, there's an intuition and there's facts too. How would you, if this is your kid asking you these questions, like what would your recommendation and just like about trust and not the fear factor, I think, is the question.
That's a great question, you know. To your point, I have, my son just turned 18. He's going to college and he's just started college and he's trying to figure out what he wants to do, right? And I always tell him, you know, just like I had to do, it's good to speak to, you know, the wiser ones, the older ones, right? And that's where you have to really look at who is in your circle. It's kind of interesting because in healthcare, we have what's called the circle of care. See this? It's called the circle of care. And this team is our disciplinary team. If I can show this with the circle of care. And in that team, you have a patient who's in the middle, and then around the circle of care, you have the doctor, the nurse, the social worker, you have the spiritual counselor who's there for spiritual support to pray for you. You have the social workers, I mentioned that. So there's a whole team around the patient. And sometimes we have to look at life like that. You don't have to make decisions by yourself, right? You don't have to. Go ask your peers. Look at these great people around you. And I think today, this is why we have the highest rate of suicide right now. I don't know if you guys know that. I have friends that are therapists. Suicide rate for young folks is at the highest. It's crazy. We talked about this, remember? Why? Because I think there's a fear factor of going to ask for help. You know, don't be scared to ask for help. You have great peers around you, these professors. It's Saturday. They could be somewhere else. You know, there's a million things they could be doing. We live next to the beach. They could be over there. They're here because they care about you, right? Utilize them. Don't be afraid to utilize them. Don't be afraid. Okay, use the technology. Text them. Say, hey, I need some help. Can you help me? And that's what I'm trying to teach my sons. Hey, if you don't believe in me because I'm your father, if you don't trust me, it's okay. Go call Uncle Joe. Go call Aunt so-and-so. Go call, there's people around you. You're not alone. You're not by yourself. Guess what? When I went through that, to answer your question, when I felt that fear, when I was scared to start my business, or when I felt like I was drowning, or when I felt like I couldn't figure out what to do with my business to pivot, I went to ask for help. I didn't let my pride stand in the way. You can't let your pride stand in the way. Go ask those around you. What do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? These are brilliant minds. You have smart people in this room. I mean, look, since I've been here, I love sociology and I love studying human behavior. And I love studying every single one of you, what you're doing right now as you're sitting here. There's a reason why people are taking notes, right? Brilliant minds. Go ask those people, hey, what do you think I should do? I'm going through these challenges. This is why I love our Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. This is why I took the role as vice president of this organization. It's been around 40, 50 years. Because I knew there was brilliant minds there. And when I started my business, I tell people all the time I speak at the schools, my father never taught me how to run a business because my father never owned a business. Mm-hmm. My father was an employee. So when I opened my own business and I had almost 100 employees, I remember going home and telling my wife one day, I don't think I'm going to be a very good, business owner. She said, why? I said, because I don't think I have those skills to lead these people. Like I was questioning myself, right? But the fact that I had found the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, I met corporate executives that were overseeing thousands of people. My friend John Amador, he's like my best friend. I study everything he does as a businessman. I got leaders around me that we go running at the beach, we go for walks, and I'm studying them and I'm picking their brains. They may not realize it, but I'm utilizing those things they're telling me for my business. So surround yourself with good people, right? My dad would always say, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. It's an old saying, right? In the Mexican community in Spanish. Tell me who your friends are and I will tell you who you are. You don't got to tell me who you are. Just tell me, is this your friend? Is that your friend? Is that your friend? I'm going to go study them. And by studying them, I'll know who you are. Because you're surrounding yourself with these 5 people. I don't need to know who you are, but I'll know who she is and she is and she is. And that'll tell me who you are. So I surrounded myself at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce with leaders, executives from big companies. And I said to myself, if I can learn from these big executives, then I can take that knowledge back to my business, to my little small business of, 100 employees compared to thousands of employees. That's why I joined the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, because I found mentors. But I was willing to do that, right? I was willing to be open-minded and set my pride aside and say, I want to go learn from these people. Yeah. Not everybody is open to that. People are like,
open-mindedness,
right?
Because otherwise you can't, I think it's not possible also to pivot if you don't have that, open-mindedness to like understand what's going on. Then you start misjudging things maybe, or if it's just a spreadsheet, you can have all your numbers in there, you can have it all right. And I know we've had that conversation here as well as, with people in Palo Alto. You still need a sense of like a gut feeling to it,
Yeah.
And so, so thank you.
I know somebody else had a question. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Go ahead.
I'm Catherine. Just one question. As we understand your role shift from teacher to business owner, especially in the healthcare entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So my question is, what are the universal transferable capabilities do you see that can be applicable to all the disciplines, not just for now, but also for the future AI accelerating the world?
Wow. Very, very great question. At the end of the day, I always say you got to keep it basic, right? I'm very old school. My father taught me to be on time. To be on time, be early. How early was I here today?
Oh, you were.
I was not late, right? Be early. That's a sign of respect. This person in the community, this leader, has invited me into what I consider her home, this classroom. For me, that's an honor. It's a blessing. It's thank you for having me. My father taught me that. So don't lose the principles, the basics, right? Of respect. We're kind of losing a lot of that nowadays, right? To be a business owner, listen, nobody will buy you whatever's in this product, right? If they don't trust what's in the product. But they're not buying the product. They have to trust me who's selling it to them, right? So when you own a business, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to be able to have that respect from the community, right? That trust, right? She's your leader in here. If I come in and I say, hey guys, I'm selling this new chocolate bar, and she says, John's a great guy. You guys should buy his chocolate bars, right? Most of you will go, I'll buy a chocolate bar. I'll buy a chocolate bar, right? Because you know her, you trust her. She just gave me what? A reference, right? But if she wasn't in the room and I walked in and I said, hi, I'm selling chocolate bars. I'm selling chocolate bars. I probably wouldn't sell one chocolate bar because you don't know me. And it doesn't matter how I'm dressed. You don't trust me. And you're not going to take a bite of a chocolate bar that you don't know where I made it, how I made it, right? What's in it? So everything you do in business is what? Trust. Trust and respect. And for me, those things are the basics of any business that you're building.
It's so funny because we actually in this class, and I don't know how it is. I'm sure you come across this all the time. It's the bottom line to it. You can't run any type of business or pivot or transform or do anything if you don't have that. It's so the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting how you address it and how to build trust, especially in your industry, right? That is so important. Palo Alto, do you guys have any questions or things that you would like to throw into the conversation here? Because we did address some of that, and it's funny, I think June mentioned it about, the volunteer organizations, for example, and, what does it take to build sort of this purpose and this purpose-driven volunteering, and we talked about that, how difficult it is.
Yeah. I actually volunteer on a lot of boards. And one of the boards I volunteer on is MECA, which is a multicultural mental health type of organization here in Orange County in Santa Ana. It's a great organization. I think my friend Yesenia might be on viewing. She's actually on them, Yesenia Ochoa, yes. And I can tell you that, you know, it's important, the mental health aspect, right? To your point, right? It's very important. So we're all going through some sort of challenge, right? Mentally.
Yeah. So how do you motivate, you know, so the volunteerism, right? So you were going in that direction. Like what is it that, I mean, you were speaking about it because it gives you relationships, because it gives you a place to learn, it gives you a place to give back. And you trust your community, or you're building your community constantly. So ultimately is that like, if you're building a volunteer community, because we were looking at that
Okay.
this morning, what is the most important factor you think to really bring in people so that they want to volunteer?
You know, I would say we have to really look at what it is that motivates you, right? What drives you, what inspires you. I get asked on a daily basis to be on a board, which is to volunteer. And I don't always volunteer for everything in every board. When I was asked to be on this board, which is called MECA, and they're doing a lot of mental health kind of support services. I remember talking to you about how, for me in hospice, we deal a lot with what's called bereavement. When people die, after people die, like the husband dies, we were with them for another year or two, the husband's wife, or vice versa. Because believe it or not, there's a study that shows that the significant other can die within 2 years.
Yeah.
Because they've been married for 40 years and suddenly the husband dies and now the wife is depressed and she dies within 2 years of depression, right? Mental health. So bereavement is a very important thing that we don't talk about as often. I think you and I talked about this. You know, it can really impact your life. You can lose your mother, your father, your grandfather. You can lose somebody close into your family. And guess what? It doesn't matter what type of business you're running. It would derail you into a depression that you won't be able to run your business. It happened to me. When my father died 6 months when I had started my company. Imagine that. I had just started my company. Somebody had just wrote me 2 checks, almost $1 million. Okay, my investors, when I was starting my company. Do you think my investors would care what's happening in my life when they just wrote me 2 checks? One for 600,000, one for 300,000? Do you think that they cared that my dad was dying of cancer? You think they cared that I was visiting my dad on a regular basis? No. They're like, build the business. Shows the return in our investment. I had to continue to run my business. So what, I think I shared the story with you. I compartmented my dad's death. I put it to a side. That pain I had of his death, I had to put it aside. Remember, this was the man who was like growing up my mentor. So as I was building my business, I had to set it aside. But guess what? 5 years later, when my business was doing really well, and I finally could take a deep breath, and my investors were happy because they were getting, you know, returning their investment as a business owner. Guess what happened to me? It hit me hard, like super hard. And I went into a depression almost, and I gained a lot of weight. And so I went through this depression, this mental health. It was very, very tough in my life to dig myself out of it. So that is why now I love to volunteer and give back to organizations like MECA. My friend Yesenia, who's I think on here viewing us, she's the chair of that board. She's the executive director. She's the main one, because for me, that's important, right? I went through it myself when my father died. I went through some tough times mentally, emotionally. So I can now only imagine what these kids are going through that we're trying to help in the community. Right? So for me, that's important. How do you build a team of volunteers? You ask them, what is your passion? What is your passion? What is your passion? Passion, right?
Yes.
Identify their passion. You will know if they're going to volunteer for you or not, because what is your mission? Does their passion meet your mission, right? If somebody is not passionate for you and your mission, guess what? They're not gonna show up, especially because they're volunteering for free. We live in Southern California, or you live in Palo Altos, wherever you're at, it's the same story. People have a million things they can do. So you gotta find the right people to fit, right? We can't put a square in a triangle. You gotta find the right pieces when you're building that community.
I think that's amazing advice. Yes, it has to fit.
Exactly.
So I mean, June, you got your answer there.
So there's a question in the chat by Phil Fraser. How can I connect with the speaker? I'm assuming that's you. And he says, I'm Hispanic and looking to start a business in the mental health field. So I would love a mentor or just someone to talk with about navigating the space.
Oh, that's great. That's great. They can follow me on my social media here. That's people are viewing me on my Instagram, which is John Life Hope, which is JOHNLIFEHOPE. That's my Instagram. Why is it John Life Hope? Because my name's John and my foundation is called the Life and Hope Foundation. So I just shorten it for that, right? And I'm a man of prayer. And for me, John 3:16, right? It's important to me. So that's why I included my name in there. I'm a man that just believes in faith. To answer your question earlier, you know, when you're not sure, trust me, I do a lot of praying. I do a lot of praying. When I don't speak to my mentors, there's times you're by yourself. And for me, that's important, prayer. And so for me, that's why it's John Life Hope, my Instagram. They can follow me there and they can send me questions and I'll do my best to answer. And like I said, if I don't have the answers, I have a good group of friends around me that hopefully can help us find those answers.
Yeah, so from a transpersonal psychology perspective, I mean, you're like right in that realm when you speak about things like that too, because it's stepping into the zone of also surrender. So it depends, you know, what tradition you come from. There's faith or grace that catches you. Or, you know, if you're developing a practice, like a meditative practice, or you come from other traditions and that's the way you go, there's always that surrender moment. And I think you're talking to that and staying, you know, with yourself. So that's that internal development that we talk a lot about at Sofia. You know, it's like taking that and looking back into yourself, like what is it? And you're not going to have every answer to everything. And that's why I say, take the vacation to think about this. And, you know, they're thinking like, oh my gosh, you know, like, really? Like, you think we're going to need that long? Yes, I do. Because that one thing is important. So that ability to let go and have that answer, you know, you meditation, prayer, you know.
Whatever it is that helps you, whatever, yeah.
Whatever it is, but it's like turning internally. And I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah.
You know?
I think yoga's great, you know. I have friends that are in yoga and I think it's great because it's teaching you how to breathe, right? And I played football and I ran track growing up and I was a sprinter and they teach you how to run and breathe a lot. And that's something that not only it's important for me to teach my boys, but you know, yoga does that, right? And breathing is such an important, I suffer from anxiety sometimes and I'm a big hot tea kind of guy. I drink chamomile lavender tea. And it helps calm me down because I don't drink alcohol. So the chamomile lavender tea is better than somebody who's drinking wine, maybe, right? Whatever works for you, whatever helps you. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, so I just like curious for your upcoming meeting, investor meeting on Monday. What would you like face like the challenges and how do you like your plan to encounter it? Because like you're a leader, you need to have some strategic thinking and yeah, it's probably exciting for you.
Yes. So her question was, you know, how will I be prepared for this new meeting I have Monday with this new investor that's going to be meeting with me in my company? There's a great book. If you've never read it, you can look it up. You can listen to it. I read it at a young age from one of my mentors. It's called Spin Selling.
Yeah.
And it's written by Neil Rackman. And all I can tell you is you have to really research who you're going to meet with. And today, that's easy to do. Who are you going to meet with? What are they about? What's their passion? So at the end of the day, be prepared, right? If you're going to meet with somebody who you're going to ask to invest into your business, you know, you have to be prepared. It's just like one of these big projects that they give you or one of these, you know, the finals. You gotta be prepared. You gotta be prepared, right? And so there's certain things about this gentleman and his team and his organization that I know. And Spin Selling, the book teaches you, ask the right questions, be a good listener. So even though I'm somebody right now has a lot of energy and I talk a lot and everything, the first time my sister ever went with me to meet with the family for hospice, I remember after we met with the family, we were going somewhere driving and I could see my sister staring at me. And I'm like, why are you staring at me? She's like, I've never seen that side of you. She's used to seeing her little brother who's very like, you know? And so my point to you is I'm totally a different person when it comes to different situations, right? Here, I love this environment. This is what I dream of being one day, a teacher, right? A professor, right? But when I go meet with people in hospice, I teach my staff, you got to bring the energy down. Remember, we're dealing with people that are dying. You can't be down and depressed, but you can't be super high. So you got to be prepared this way. So there's a whole training to meeting with people in hospice. Well, guess what? When I go meet with business people, investors that have a lot of money, I can tell you that most people that have a lot of money, there's a reason why they have a lot of money. Why do you think?
Because they can help others, that's one thing.
Because they're penny pinchers. They know how to take care of their money. They know how to watch their money. They know how to invest their money. So Spin Selling teaches you that book. It teaches you that if I'm going to be on this call with this gentleman on Monday, I better what? I better know my numbers.
Yeah.
That guy's not going to care about, we take care of people dying. Please invest in us. Please give us your money.
But it's interesting.
Please, please. Guess what? Those guys, they'll listen to the whole, I've seen it. They'll listen to the whole story. And they're straight like this looking at you. And they'll say to you, give me the numbers. If I give you 500,000 right now, when will I get my money back? How much am I going to get back? How much money am I going to make? If you read personality traits, most people that have a lot of money are what they call a driver personality. That's why I love studying sociology, the study of human behavior. Drivers make the most money in the world. You may not like them, they may not like you, but they're money-making machines. So when you're gonna meet with somebody for an investor, you ever watch Shark Tank? You ever watch Shark Tank? I watch it daily, all the time. My wife thinks I'm crazy. I watch it too much, right? And guess what happens? Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, he's a driver personality. He doesn't care about your feelings. He'll tell you, this is a bad idea. Get out of here. But he's a billionaire. Only two guys are billionaires in that group. That's him and Mark Cuban. They're the only two billionaires. The other guys are working their way up. But they have driver personalities. You have to know who you're meeting with. Those people don't care about the fact that we're saving lives, we're making an impact. They care about the money and the numbers. So be prepared is what I'm saying.
Quick question. How much is their missing opportunity cost if they don't invest in you?
Well, that's.
Oh, that's a great question.
Can you pass that real quick? I'll give it right to you. Well, just to answer that question,
Good one.
you know,
Vinny.
that happened. Believe it or not, that happened. I had a gentleman who was supposed to invest in my company when I first started it. He was a friend of a friend. And then I ran into him at a golf tournament 7 years later before the pandemic. And when I met with him, he had a little coffee business. And he said to me, hey, I heard your hospice company is doing really well. And I said, yeah, it's not. I could easily been gloating, right? Like, hey, you messed up. You should have invested with us. In 7 years, we've generated $100 million. You would have made 10 times your money, right? You didn't want to invest 500,000. You lost, right? Like, that's people that have money. That's why they have that money eye. They could see whether it's a good investment or bad. Not everybody's going to make the best investments, right? But you have to understand what I'm trying to also let you know is somebody will invest in your business. Again, going back to the sales pitch, because they believe in you, they believe in the business, they believe in the product, when you're starting a company, remember, at the beginning, I didn't have a product. I didn't have a business. OC Hospice, nobody knew of them 15 years ago. It was a brand new product, a brand new company. There is no, now I have over 100 5-star reviews on Yelp. So tomorrow when I meet with this guy, I can say to him, we've been around 15 years. We service this many thousands of people. We've generated over $100 million or whatever it is. I can give him the numbers. You can go see our reviews. Mind you, he was recommended by somebody that I know, a nurse. So she's already spoken highly about us. So there's a big difference, right? Than when you're starting up. As a startup, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's going to be tough. But there's also programs like we have at the Hispanic Chamber or everywhere. You can go to the SBA, the Small Business Development Center, the SBDC, and you can try to get a small business loan. And there's consultants there and they can help you. So there's ways to find that money, that capital to start your company, right? But once you build the business, you're going to need more money to cover your overhead. If you ever watch Shark Tank, a lot of people that are there, they've already built their business. The challenge that they're facing is they're getting orders and they don't have enough money to fulfill the orders. And it becomes the game of chicken and the egg. Like, okay, and in our business, what happens is if I get a lot of patients, now I've got to hire a lot of nurses. But then if I hire too many nurses, and then some of my patients, remember, our patients are dying. So if my patients die, now I have too many nurses, right? And now I'm paying too many nurses too much money. And so now I'm like, but I don't want to fire you and I don't want to fire you, but I may need you in 2 months. And suddenly I got all these patients again. And hey, by the way, can you come back? And you're like, no, I'm working for another company. Sorry, but you're a great nurse and you're a great doctor and you're a great social worker and I need you back. So you see that? That's the balancing act of owning a business. Every business has that, the chicken and the egg. What comes first, right? You don't think Starbucks went through that? We're going to invest more into more offices and more, stores or whatever. We're going to invest. Yes, there's a risk in everything. So that's why it's called a calculated risk, right?
Yeah.
A calculated risk. How do the numbers look? The percentage. You asked me that question earlier. I have to be able to show this investor on Monday that the calculated risk he's taking is worth it. So what's the first thing an investor will ask you for once your business is established? Do you know? Does anybody know in here?
My ROI?
No. What's your P&L?
Oh,
You know what that is?
profit and loss?
That's the first thing they're going to ask you.
Yeah.
They're going to ask you, what's your P&L? I think I might have it in here. I left it at home.
You have
Right?
one radio.
So I show them a P&L. I show them years before the pandemic and he sees my business is doing this great, right? And then after the pandemic, he sees what? My business doing this, right? So the first thing he's going to tell you, just like the Shark Tank guys, well, look at your business. It's down here. What is he going to ask for? More ownership in my company. You want me to give you 500,000? I want 50% of the company, just like Shark Tank. And I'm going to say, whoa, take it easy. I'll give you 30%. And we're going to go at it. And we're going to fight. It's going to get ugly, right? True or not, right?
Yes, of course. Can I add one thing?
Sure.
Because it's like when we talk about, leadership with heart, notice how he is thank you, Yagmar. He is the bridge. And we've only got like 5 more minutes
Sorry,
anyways.
yeah.
No. He's the bridge between the vision and that heart-driven leadership to getting more money, right? So he is the instrument.
Yeah.
Right? So not to mistake that. So it's like understanding that you can be that, so there is, so I was kind of making fun on another call about, because, if from a transpersonal psychology perspective, you can be very idealistic, and so, but it has to be sustainable. So like, how can this be sustainable? What is your risk? Where are you invested yourself?
Yeah.
What are you bringing to the equation? When the rubber meets the road type of thing.
Oh my gosh, you just said the quote that one of my big referral sources said to me,
Yeah.
the first time I went to ask for a contract.
Yeah.
He said, when the rubber
Yeah.
meets the road.
Yes, and it's like, that's it. And it's so just not to stop, right? And take that bit in for yourself. So it's not that you can't have that to be in the game, so to speak. Okay, last thing,
Sure.
we gotta, sort
Sure.
of wrap
it
up.
up, wrap it
That
up.
I want, yeah, go.
So I was wondering, like, how do you find like business partners or investors? Is it purely through relationships or building connection over all
Well,
these years?
Yeah, great question. How do you find investors or business partners? And I'm just saying it out for people viewing us. You join organizations like our organization, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. You join, there's many different organizations out there, and you go and you network and you meet people. You go to networking events, you talk to your peers. They might know,
Yep.
they might know some people, you know? Trust me, she knows people with big money. She's just
Mm-hmm.
not telling you, but she does, you know? And it could just be one person, right? She doesn't have to know a lot of people, but she might know a person, but you're gonna have to what? First pitch your idea to her. Because guess what? She's not gonna risk her relationship or her credibility with her, who she's gonna refer to you. So you gotta be ready. So you gotta put together a business plan, and usually it's a 5-year plan. This I learned when I was starting my business. It's a 5-year plan. Why? Because investors want to know a 5-year plan on how they're going to get their money back. They don't want a 10, 15, or 20 years. So when I brought that to my investors, at 5 years, I told them, you want out? And they said, no, we don't want out. Let's build another office and another office. But none of us expected the pandemic to happen. So go to your peers, your friends, like this investor I'm meeting with on Monday. I met him through a nurse that used to work for me. She told him about me, and it just kind of worked that way. So I would say, I mean, obviously you can go on LinkedIn, you can research people. You got to be careful, because now that we're all talking about this, your phones are going to get tons of advertisement on investors and people that can give you money. Obviously be careful.
Yeah.
Because you know, you don't want to just
Thank
sign
you.
up for anything, right?
Yes.
The algorithm will get you.
Yeah, the algorithm will get you.
'Cause we're talking
And
about
it's-
all this.
And it's fun. So I want to really also bring this out.
Yes.
And I took a picture of it, this circle. So it's a model, really, you want to see it. It's a model on how the, your company is created. And really, it's almost like a value circle.
Mhm.
Like the patient is in the middle, right? So it's not a hierarchy, it's a circle. And to notice that, I will post it, you know, as well in different places. I'm saying that also because we have some international viewers, and from that perspective, it's going into how can you create partnerships with hospitals the world over if you are in this type of business, right? Because there's a demand, and not everyone has such a developed model on how to approach this. And so in this way, what would you say, like if you had to do a 3-sentence pitch about your model and how you approach it, heart-centered or what, however you want to say it, what would you say?
About our hospice.
Yes, about your model specifically.
I mean, you know, we have this one pager that says what makes us different, you know, and for me that, you know, when I meet with this investor, for example, these are the 3 pieces that I'm going to show them. There's our brochure, right? There's our circle of care that shows our services, right? And then there's a piece that says what makes us different.
Okay.
These are my 10 points, right? Why is that important to me? Because it gets to the point. This is who we are. This is what we do. This is why you should invest in us. And then it talks about our foundation. You know, at the bottom, you'll always see like, you know, what our foundation does. For every person that dies, we plant a tree in their memory.
Beautiful.
That's what makes us different. We put their name, the little plaque with their name. This tree will grow again. That's a therapeutical bereavement type of way for the person that's lost a loved one, right? And so, you know, at the end of the day, you know, what makes you different? What makes us different?
Yeah, so
Right?
if you were to tell me what makes you different.
My business,
Yes,
OC Hospice.
yes, please.
I get asked this all the time, and I'm going to say it very simple. I'm not the Walmart down the street. I'm the Trader Joe's in your neighborhood. Okay? We're family owned. There's corporate hospices at a national level. The largest hospice company in the United States is owned by Roto-Rooter, a plumbing company, because they have a lot of money. Okay? I'm not owned by a Roto-Rooter corporate company. I'm owned by a family.
You care.
Yes, because we care, we're family oriented. So you want to hire me to service you and take care of your loved one? You pick up the phone, you're going to speak to the owner of the wife or whoever, the wife that runs the business, the partners, everybody, So it's family oriented, right? We're a family, and that's what makes us different. We're not a Walmart, we're a Trader Joe's. They both deliver services. Don't get me, it's the same service, but just different type of service. Yes.
Ms. Beaumont, so if you were to say a cooperation with a hospital somewhere, in the world, like what would make you the perfect partner for that?
We've serviced a lot, City of Hope, who now has a new hospital here down the street. We started servicing Doroté for a while. And it just goes to show that such an amazing company like City of Hope trusts us, believes in us. And so that shows credibility, not to me, but really to my wife, the staff, the team. I'm the one out there hustling for the money, for the investors, for the business. But at the end of the day, I can promise you the world. But if my staff doesn't do the hard work that they do, the company is because of the staff. Our hardworking nurses, they make up who we are. I can tell you right now, I can never do what my nurses do. They do an amazing, to be at the bedside of somebody dying, and after they die, they go and do what's called a death visit. It's very difficult to do. I can never do what they do, because I'm too emotional, right? And they're very strong, and they have to be. So, I give all praise and love to our team, our staff, our social workers, our nurses, our doctors. At the end of the day, you have to deliver what you promise. If you're going to own a business, you can't just promise, I'm going to give you the best water in the world. Like you said, well, why? How is it the best water? What's alkaline water? And we filter it 3-4 different times instead of hers who only filters it once, right? So what makes you different matters.
Hey, well, this has been a beautiful time.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I think you've left us with a lot of things to think about, ponder, integrate. Yeah, has one more question.
Just one last, I'm curious.
Yes.
So we were thinking about visiting an elderly home for
Mhm.
holidays and do a little something.
Oh, that's nice.
Obviously, your business model is slightly different and those people might be a little bit more sensitive. So
Yes.
I don't know if you guys do those things, but do you do those things? And if so, like a holiday
Okay, you
event,
would like to volunteer?
you would like to come and help
Yeah,
and do
yeah.
a little party for them?
Oh, that's nice. As a classroom or something?
No, like just me.
Oh, okay. Well, first and foremost, just so you know, in hospice, you can become a volunteer. We have a volunteer program in hospice if you ever wanted to. Future doctors, future nurses, or whatever it may be, a lot of them volunteer. There is a whole piece that you go through to volunteer. And you can volunteer either seeing patients, visiting communities. All of our patients are not at home. Some of them are assisted living communities, what they call boarding care homes for seniors. So most of them are at home. And so you can volunteer different ways for us. But if you wanted to just kind of go one day and be involved in a center, I can connect you to some people.
Yeah.
A couple of my friends, work for these kind of centers where there's elderly people, seniors that are not, obviously sick and dying,
Yeah.
that are more like a senior center and they're dancing and having a good time. And trust me, those people love when young people come in and they get involved and they help out. So I would be more than happy, like I said, maybe send me a message. I didn't bring any cards, I'm sorry. But she has
Yeah.
all of my information. She can give you my email. But you can follow me on Instagram, John Life Hope, send me a message. And would love to be able to help connect you in any way that we can.
Thank you.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah.
Sorry, we keep getting questions. I'm trying to.
No,
Make
it's
it
okay.
fast.
I mean,
I had to ask.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, John, for the information. So you are doing a very unique business and dealing with special patient. My question is that how do you evaluate your success at the end of the day? Right, taking care of this patient. Is it by helping them live longer or more happy? Or what is the key indicators for your success?
Well, it's a tough question because unfortunately, we're dealing with people that are dying.
Yes.
And I know you and I had this little talk. One day my friends said to me, I can't believe you work in hospice. That is such a sad and depressing thing to do. My goodness, John, how can you do that? And I said, no, you're wrong. Let me ask you a question. If you were driving down the street and you saw somebody in the street who had just gotten shot and they're sitting there bleeding to death, would you just keep driving? Or would you stop and help that person? Of course I would stop and I would go help them. I said, that's the same thing that I'm doing. I don't have control of what's happening to these people, right? I don't have control of the fact that unfortunately they have stage 4 cancer or they have advanced Alzheimer's or dementia or ALS or Parkinson's. These are all the diseases that take us and they take us fast or some of them a little longer. But all I can tell you is for me, I feel like it's an honor. It's a blessing that I was put in the position. I happened to be driving at the right time when unfortunately somebody was dealing with this tough situation. And so when I'm brought into the home, as much as I have to meet with a lot of family members, it's my job to walk out of that door and know that I've listened to all their challenges, to all their needs. I've listened to the patient. And then I go with my circle of care team and we put together a plan of care. And let me tell you, people that are dying from cancer is very different than someone dying from Alzheimer's and dementia and ALS and Parkinson's. This circle of care will apply differently to every different disease. And guess what? Every different family, because we have what's called family dynamics. Guess what? Your dad wants to fight for the end. Meanwhile, your grandfather is saying to his son, I need to go, son. Let me die. I've been in pain for 2 years. I've had multiple surgeries. I'm done. And your dad is like, no, no, no. I want to fight for you, Dad. There's going to be a miracle. And the patient is saying, no, I'm tired. My body's tired. I've been through chemo and radiation. And guess what I have to do? I have to come into that home and say to the son, Mr. So-and-so, what's more important? What's important to you or what's important to him? I have to tell that to families. I have to advocate, right? We have to advocate. I have to advocate for the patient. So to answer your question, as long as I know that I've advocated for the person that my job is to advocate for, I have to advocate for the patient that's dying. And there could be 10 family members in there who want something different. My job is to advocate for the patient. And if the patient says, I'm tired, I'm done, like, that's it. Bring your team, just give me pain medication, I'm ready to go. Please make no mistake, we don't speed the process. That's not what we do in hospice. We're there to help them as these things happen.
Painless.
Yes. And I will tell families that are not ready to accept what's happening, I will tell them straight out, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse. I've been doing this for 25 years. And I can tell you that the storm is coming. The storm is coming. And if you're not prepared when the storm arrives, whether it's my company or another company, if you don't have a whole team ready, you're not going to be prepared for the storm, right? And sometimes you have to nudge people a little bit like that. And then they will take a deep breath and say, you know what, John, you're right. I keep thinking about what's important for me. And it's not about me, it's about my father who's dying. You're right. He needs to be on this program. There's a reason why the doctor called us. There's a reason why the doctors write these orders. They know the history, right? They know it's time. You're gonna unfortunately die in the next 6 months to a year. Nobody knows when, but it's gonna happen, right? The doctor has to write. I can't just go knock on your door and be like, you wanna be on hospice? It doesn't work that way. The doctor has to write the order. Guess what? The doctor's been seeing the patient for years, maybe. They have a really, so when they call me, it's because the doctor knows. And trust me when I tell you this, doctors went to school to save lives. The hardest thing for them to do, because I have a lot of friends that are doctors, is to write an order for hospice. It's very hard. Because for them, it's like, I can no longer do anything for you. You have to go on hospice. And that's hard for them. Because they feel like they failed, right? They feel like they couldn't. But a lot of them that understand hospice later, to your point, to your question, they'll say, I'm so glad we put him on hospice early enough. Because if I held him longer, he would have suffered a lot, right? And nobody wants your loved one to suffer. Our job is to make sure they don't suffer. Only we carry medication that other people do not carry. Because we're there towards the end and at the end and after. So for me, that's important. Did my team do their job? Did I do my job? Did I advocate for the patient? That's how I sleep well at night. We did our best, right? And I love knowing that we do that every day for families. So that gives me comfort. Does that make sense?
Yep, it's a lot of comfort to know. Thank you.
Yes.
It's really stimulating. Make me want to ask one question to the professor. So
Okay,
follow
then we,
your-
all right, so you guys, you're welcome to go, you know, if you need to, if you have things going on.
Nice to meet you guys all. I'm so sorry.
Yes,
I know.
that we
We
can-
can stay and talk after. if
We
we need
can
to.
like continue because.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good speech.